And today, I've enlisted the help of Ruth Penfold as we discuss, or rather, I suppose Ruth presents how to forge a path to wellness in a digital world. Ruth is powered by plants, much like I'm certain myself, water and joy, so let's get one more person in. And Ruth believes passionately in the emerging role of HR in businesses. Sees a huge opportunity to help businesses tap into creating the right environment for the people of tomorrow whilst retaining the people of today. Small lady joined us there. Having spent the last few years building tech businesses from a people standpoint at Shazam and Onfido, including those, Ruth is now working with BP Launchpad as the people practice lead and is on a mission to help businesses scale fast while supporting them and the humans within them to uncover their blueprint for joy. What a wonderful thing that sounds like. So, Ruth, thank you very much for being with us today. And that's kind of a really brief intro on you. Is there anything else you'd like to add about your background or about your journey to get into the point in your life today with wellness being so integral to you and who you are?
Sure, absolutely. So hello everyone, I'm delighted to get to speak to you all today, and I do hope to get to see your human faces at the end. So yeah, my name's Ruth Penfold, and if you're thinking what does a people practice lead do, think Chief People Officer, but what I do is a bit different in that we're a business accelerator that is there to help businesses to scale and help people overcome what they need to overcome within themselves to be able to do that. Now, this role for me sees the coming together of lots of different things, and a real kind of area of interest for me is in human beings and how we work, why we work. And I come at this from a place of lived experience. So about 10 years ago, I ejected myself from the life that I'd built for myself, and I built a whole new one. And that meant rebuilding myself from the inside out. So I don't speak to anything that I'm not living. I'd love to hear from your experiences and learn from you, but I'm only here to share. Really, this is, just from my vantage point. I am, though, therefore, somewhat of a double agent because of the journey that I've been on personally. That means that I know how much I've been able to supercharge my own world by connecting into the essence of who I really am and learning how to walk in alignment with myself. And for me, that really has been the sort of magic dust that has sort of set my world on fire. And I see our role as people as really, it's huge, right? We are the people who need to be the folks bringing our organizations together, and boy have we had a challenging year with which to do that, right? So at Launchpad, not only are we supporting other new organizations to scale, we're also a new organization ourselves. We're only 18 months old. I've only been in this role since November last year, so we're super new and navigating all of the stuff that you all are navigating at the same time. But which is why, as people, the relationship that we're having with ourselves is paramount. And I should also add the other things that I do is I also have a podcast where I talk to people who've inspired me along my path towards joyful living. I write a blog, and I also teach yoga in my spare time. I used to teach a regular weekly class, at least one, but post-COVID, my yoga is now me noodling around on the internet mainly. So feel free to come and find me and join me in that noodling if you so desire. But I want to speak to you today from two places. So from the perspective of you as the human being living through the world that we're all living through, and for also you as this sort of, the person that can help steer, lead, and navigate an organization through a really difficult time, because we all can agree that this year has been unprecedented, but we don't know what next year's going to bring. We don't know what the end of this year is going to bring. Like, none of us expected to be where we are right now. So we need to be super mindful that, to expect the unexpected and therefore be ready. Now, I wanted to therefore start off, before we get into the weeds of some bits and pieces that might be useful for you from a people standpoint, really, the way that we inspire greatness in our organizations is the way that we do that by the way that we show up in our own world. So I guess my question to start this really off it, and I just want you to think about this, because we have such an opportunity to inspire greatness in others and really encourage people to, you know, dare to be bold and try to find the way to live their best life, even against the backdrop of change and world that we're up against. So my question to all of you is, how are you showing up in your role on a daily basis? And I'd like you to just have that in your mind as we weave through what we're about to do. Now, I am going to do something a little bit experimental with you all. And that does mean that actually, oops, too far. We went too far. I asked some people who were on the call early, but I'm guessing we're a bit of a mixed group here. Some people have meditated, some people haven't meditated. If there are people who feel things strongly that have joined a bit later about meditating or how you feel about it, then let me know. But I just want to talk to you a little bit about meditation. Now, before I do that, I'm actually going to get you to watch something for almost five whole minutes. And I know that's controversial for our millennial brains, but trust me when I say it's worth it. Paul, can you see that? Can you see Mo?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So I'm just going to let Mo tell his story. Maybe some of you have seen him before. He was part of Google X for a long time. And he wrote a book about happiness. Now, I would like you to just think about happiness as joyfulness. And my definition of joy is walking in alignment with your soul. I don't mean giddiness. I don't mean fake happiness. We have to be real with where we are. But I just want you to think about, just replace the word happiness with joyfulness, because I think there's a greater sincerity and truth to it, because happiness can be very, very fake. I know that because I pretended to be happy for the entirety of my 20s. So I'm like the master player at that. Okay, over to Mo. Can you hear that okay? Paul, can you hear that?
Yeah, I can hear it, yeah.
Right.
Who here in this room is not happy all the time? Sometimes happy, sometimes not happy, right? Okay, every single hand almost. Anyone here who's happy most of the time, like 90% or more? Great, okay. So it's doable, huh? So some of us actually can achieve happiness most of the time. Some of us are not doing that, obviously, which basically means you're missing your target. Because, you know, if it's doable, then, you know, you're not doing really well. I mean, we would rate you as meets expectations, right? Have you ever gone looking for your keys when you had them in your pocket all along? Right? I mean, people with glasses would know that very well. So, yeah, right? You can relate to that. You put them on and then you look for them everywhere and you just can't find them. And, you know, you dive under the sofa and you shout at home like, honey, where are my glasses, right? And, you know, how can you find them when you have them on? How can you find your keys when they're with you all along? We keep looking for happiness outside us. We keep looking for things that make us happy. While the truth is this, every one of you, every child that has ever been born is born with the default setting set to happy. If we're fed, if we're safe, if we're loved, if there is no reason for us to be unhappy, what's the default setting? The default setting is happy. And what happens truly, similar to what you do with your Android phones and iPhones, you know, you get them out of the box and they're set to work properly. We come out of the box and we're set to be happy. Then you start installing weird apps, you know, and your battery life goes to 4 hours, right? And you have to charge 3 times a day. While at a young age, I was extremely successful as a businessman and an entrepreneur and a day trader and what have you, I was installing things in my life. I was trying to buy a beautiful car or, you know, get the, you know, whatever expensive shirts or suits or whatever. I was trying to install more apps to make me happy. And I wasn't. Because truly what I should have done was remove the apps that made me unhappy. In a very, very interesting way, happiness truly is the absence of unhappiness. I want to do a quick test with you. Just in a quick 1 minute, I want you to do 2 tasks at the same time. I want you to succeed at both tasks. Both are very simple tasks. So the first one, I apologize. I want you in 10 seconds, 20 seconds to close your eyes and remember something that makes you unhappy. I want you to turn it over in your brain until you're miserable. Can you do that for me? No, don't laugh. I want you miserable. Right, now keep that unhappy thought in your head. Please try to continue to be unhappy. And I want you to just do a simple arithmetic task, which is to add the numbers on the screen. Or no, hold on. Why are you laughing? You're supposed to be unhappy. At least add the numbers if you can, please. Anyone added the numbers? No. Anyone remained unhappy? Failed twice. Like, bravo, right? So what did I do here? You were okay, you were smiling, everything was okay, you were engaged in the conversation. Then I asked you to think of something that made you unhappy. You thought about something that made you unhappy. What happened? Boom, immediately, unhappiness on demand, right? And then I distracted you. I stopped you thinking about what it is that you were thinking about. Simple as that. And what happened? Boom, happiness on demand, right? It is really interesting because it's not the event. The event you were thinking about happened already. If you had not thought about it, you wouldn't be unhappy. You know what that means? It means your happiness equation looks like this, the way you think about the events of your life versus your expectations. I'd like to introduce you to Ali. Ali, my son and my best friend and my mentor. We developed my happiness model together because Ali truly was the happiest person I ever met. He had that peace to him that you could not miss. And Ali, I think, was training me all my life with our happiness model because unfortunately in 2014, we lost Ali to a preventable human error. So Ali came to visit us in Dubai and he was diagnosed with an appendix inflammation. And unfortunately, they made several mistakes in a row. And within 4 hours, we moved from, planning the best vacation we can think of to losing our child. And to lose a child, I know those of you who have children will know is the hardest thing ever. It's until today, I struggle to understand what it really means. I struggle to understand the exact feeling that I'm feeling. I just don't have words for it. There is no other event in my life where I felt the same way. And there was every reason to be miserable, to be honest, when we lost Ali, but we were not. We were okay. I wouldn't say we were happy, just to be very specific, but we were peaceful. We spent the next few days, being visited by friends until his memorial, where we had thousands of people who would walk in sad, crying, and we would hug them and explain to them what we understood about happiness, what we understood about death and life. And they would smile and go around our house looking at pictures of Ali smiling all over the walls, and and they would leave happy. And if you didn't know the background to the event, you would have thought it's maybe Ali's birthday or something. Most of my friends came to me and said, you should probably...
I'm just going to stop it there because he kind of carries on for a little bit, but I think that's quite a powerful way of recognizing the fact that actually, we are responsible for our own lived experience, my friends. And that doesn't mean that the bad stuff stops coming, but it's up to us to build our own toolkit that means that we're able to navigate those situations and become as resilient as we can. And resilience, people talk about that quite a lot at the moment, particularly in the context of the workplace. And I think from my perspective, resilience really is about building the toolkit that you need to thrive, because it doesn't mean that the bad things go away and it doesn't mean that they don't hurt you, but it means that you've built your coping mechanisms and how to, what you need to make sure that you're in the right place. So Mo wrote his book, Sulfur Happy. I highly recommend reading it. He also has an amazing podcast too. But happiness could be any emotion. The thing is we have a choice, right? And I think the questions that I should have been asking myself in my 20s was, is my machine in the right operating environment? No, it wasn't. Also, I really suffered from my expectations of the world and those not being met. And actually when you release, I wrote a blog about this recently, but when you release the world of your expectations of them, everybody wins, because not your experience is better, the people around you don't have this weird expectation that you have of them doing what you think you want them to do. But I think just remember that your brain is a misery generating machine. And as I was saying at the beginning, your brain is there to protect you, which is what gives rise to lots of the ugly biases that we now see destroying everybody else's and other people's lived experience in the world as much as our own. But your brain will do what it's told to do, and it can be trained. And that's the point that Mo was making with that counting exercise. You know, if you say, look for everybody wearing red, not in the room that you're in right now, but if you say, look for a specific color of thing, your brain can find it because you're giving it a mission, right? So for me, meditation was for me, and it's not for everyone, I get that, but it was the means that I learned with which to control my brain and to give it a mission and give it something to focus on. And that for me has been critical with my own success in my life and my own experience of joy in my life. So I'm a huge advocate because it was the most significant change that I made. I used to be way more led by emotion. I have a hyperreactive brain. So, you know, constantly thinking if I let myself. And what that meant was, I don't know if you can actually see me or not, or if you can only see my screen. I don't know if you can see my face, but my emotions used to kind of go up and down much more, but now they're a lot steadier. So it's more like there are still ups and downs, but they're not as big. The pendulum doesn't swing as far as it used to. And now I have a choice as to whether to get pulled into stress or not. And it doesn't mean the stress goes away. It means that when I feel the stress, my body goes, Penfold, you're feeling stress. What are we going to do here? Actually, should we go and take ourselves away from this situation for a minute, find our breath, and then come back with a greater chance of having a successful interaction with either the human being I'm interacting with or, you know, the context of the meeting that I'm in. But on the real, it was the hardest thing that I've ever learned how to do, because it's like taming a wild animal. And I only learned to do it by doing group meditation. If anybody wants to find out more about that, the person that I learned to do it with is doing group meditations online right now. But literally when I started doing it on my own, it was like 60 seconds and then I'd run away, right? But I've been meditating daily now for 4 years. So I speak from lived experience of what it's like to tame the wild animal. And your brain may try to fight it, right? And you might fall asleep. And if you're trying to meditate and you're falling asleep, then what you need to ask yourselves, my friends, is what your body is telling you is what I need right now more than meditation is rest. So are you resting enough? Are you giving your body what it needs to thrive? But as I said before, one size doesn't fit all. So our friend Oliver gets his moment of connection on the golf course, and that's beautiful. And I'm not here to say there is only one way of doing things. I'm just here to share what has worked for me. So meditation is, if you choose to allow it to be, a beautiful opportunity to connect to yourself and in turn connect to the people around you. Because the better relationship you have with yourself, my friends, the quality of the relationship that you're able to have with other people will increase tenfold, because you will be speaking from a calmer, more authentic place. Because human beings' bodies, we react to one another, even on a Zoom call. So if I'm sitting here in nervous energy and in reaction, your body's going to react to you, even before your brain is reacting to me. And that's how, in a beautiful way, we're so connected and we're so synchronized together. But that's why this stuff is so important in terms of how we show up, both personally and professionally. But what meditation isn't and shouldn't be is another thing to put yourself down about. I don't want to add to an already overburdened to-do list of things that you think you're not good at. That is not the object of this exercise. But I do want to just very quickly do a meditation with you all, just so that you can see how simple it is from my perspective. It's just going to be a handful of minutes, hardly anything at all, because we've got so much more to talk about. So find a comfortable seat, ideally with your feet flat on the floor. You don't have to stay still like a statue. If you need to scratch something, scratch it. Now, in meditation, it's really helpful to use a mantra. Now, a mantra basically means point of focus. And what you need to imagine with a mantra, we use our breath, by the way, as mantra. But when we talk about a point of focus, what we mean is, so imagine that you've got a pebble and that you throw it into a pond. And when you throw that pebble into the pond, or, you know, say your mantra or find your focus, you'll see that the pond, the surface of the pond, you'll see the circles start to spread out from where that pebble has penetrated the water. And then the pond goes still. And that's the moment when your brain forgets that it was supposed to have some kind of mantra or focus, and then it just goes still. And then it starts thinking again. And as soon as you're aware that you've started thinking again, you throw another pebble. So what that means is then you bring your focus back to your, whatever it is, whether it's a word or whether we're going to use our breath. But if you want to use a mantra and you have a meditation practice, by all means use it. So find a comfortable seat, allow your palms to face upwards. Give me some integrity in your spine. So you're going to lightly engage your core here just to hold yourself with your shoulders proudly. So sit with intention and with integrity. Imagine someone's pulling you from an invisible string at the crown of your head. And then very gently, I want you to just start to soften your gaze just where you are. And just allow your eyes to start to open and close a little bit here. And just see if you can become aware of the sensation of your eyelid moving up and down over your eyeball. So when I'm super heady, it takes me ages to feel anything there. But just see if you can feel something. Maybe it's just the moisture of your eye. And when you can feel something, you can allow your eyes to remain closed. But do so with the conscious intention of connecting to yourself. And then just be still for a moment there. And see what you can feel in your body. I can feel a little bit of anxiety in the middle of my chest because I'm slightly agitated because I'm sitting here talking to you wonderful people. And then very gently bring your focus to the tip of your nose. And with your mouth closed, see if you can allow your breath to become gentle there. And now there is no one definition of gentleness, but I can tell you I know that my breath is gentle when I can feel a coolness at the tip of my nose as I inhale and a warmth at the base of my nose as I exhale. But maybe you can just feel a bit of movement. Maybe you can't feel temperature. Maybe you can't feel anything at all. And whatever it is that you can or can't feel is okay. That's where we are today. And you need to be peaceful with that and forgive yourself for whatever it is you think you should be doing or not doing. And then just see if you can keep your focus with your breath at the tip of your nose. But remember, if your mind wanders, that's okay. That's what it's meant to do. Just bring your focus back to your breath at the tip of your nose again. The ultimate goal of meditation is not to spend hours and hours meditating. It's actually never to meditate, because you never leave yourself. You stay connected at all times. You don't allow the energy of the outside world to pull you out of yourself. And as people, what we need to become is more like a sieve, where we allow energy to flow through us, but not gather within us. And where many of us have made the mistake up in our lives is allowing the energy of other people to start to inhabit our own bodies and infect us and affect what we do next. So my meditation, I meditate every day to remind myself who I am and what I really feel like, so that I become much more aware when I get pulled out or when I'm letting energy in, because I'm not perfect. Nobody is. we let things in, and it's just about learning when we're doing it so that we can bring ourselves back to ourselves as quickly as possible. And now very gently, see if you can make your breath a little bit bigger, just a little bit bigger. And then maybe it will feel nice to wriggle your fingers and your toes. And then with your gaze soft and low, you can gently start to blink your eyelids open and bring yourself back into the room wherever you are in the world. And then just check back in with your eyes open, check in on your body and see whether there's anything else that you can feel here that maybe you didn't feel before. Often when I finish meditating, I realize that I can feel tension in my shoulder and that my stress knot's actually been talking to me all day and I haven't quite realized. So that concludes our meditation, and I hope you're feeling suitably grounded. I'd love to hear more about your experiences at the end, but I will assume and hope dearly that you're all with me, still with me, and I will continue just to talk a little bit about some of the ways that we've been supporting our human beings' well-being over the past few months. As you can probably tell, I'm a bit of a Swiss Army knife of well-being, as well as being able to build businesses and hire people and all that sort of stuff. So this is definitely something that I know a fair amount about. But Launchpad, as I mentioned, Launchpad is a new company. So we're still building that culture, and we're definitely fully remote until the end of 2020. And initially when lockdown happened, we were sort of looking at how we keep that team together. So, you know, we're at about, let's say 40 people. We won't get much bigger than that, even though we're a BP company. I know that's wild. But the idea being that we stay lean and that we concentrate on scaling the businesses that we're growing. So what I'd like to share with you now is really just some considerations of how you might consider supporting your people from afar. Now, I appreciate I'm probably slightly preaching to the choir here, and you will be doing a ton of this stuff already, but I'm not trying to teach grandma how to suck eggs, but I am just sharing some of the things that we did that worked for us. So first of all, I would say it's been about supporting connection. So let's start each one of these themes with ourselves, right? How are you supporting your connection to you? How are you showing up each and every day? Are you giving yourself the best possible chance each and every day? Are you looking at how you're resting? And, you know, are you starting your meetings? I like to start my meetings from quite a personal place because we've lost those moments together. And with my team, we have a stand-up. Well, we have tons of stand-ups as an organization all the time, but we have a stand-up 3 times a week where we literally just shoot the breeze and just talk about, you know, somebody got married lately, you know, like whatever it is, the stuff that you're losing right now that means that you're not really connecting to each other. So and really that you're creating activities for your humans that encourage collaboration as much as possible, so that we don't just start operating in the silos of our houses. And when it comes to supporting others, so initially I was hosting a weekly meditation for the team, and we straight away launched Hello Self for our people, which gives people, there's 4 coaching slots every 2 weeks available for people to use if they need it. And then we also, I've hosted a series of talks on relieving tension, on building resilience, on, you know, nutrition, on your relationship with food. And if anybody wants any great people to go to on this stuff, just let me know, because I have a whole Rolodex full of people that will do amazing work. The other thing that we're bringing in from November, from next week, we're actually going to be doing a meditation, like a well-being check-in every morning, 4 days a week. So before our company-wide stand-up, we're going to be doing a 15-minute check-in with everybody else that we're doing with an external partner, really with the notion that, we know that our people are going to need even more support, because whilst this year was fairly disarming for a lot of us, the sun was shining. And how does that change for everybody when we are in the depths of winter, as Paul was saying before? That does mean that we have to be wearing our sunshine on the inside, and we have to make sure that we're checking in on where we all are in a very real way, and supporting people where they are, knowing that we're not all going to be in good places each and every day, because there's so much coming our way. Next is supporting communication. So again, it starts with you. How do you speak to yourself? Right? One of the biggest things I've had to fix up is the conversation that I'm having with myself, particularly as I live alone. Coming into lockdown, I had to really level up on my ability to self-partner and forgive myself, and to help myself feel safe. So how the way that you speak to yourself will affect how that you speak to other people. So how are you expressing yourself, and are you making sure that you're giving yourself the best shot to be heard? So when it comes to supporting others, how do you support those interactions in others? Making sure, I know everyone's so sick of screens now, but having screens on is really important so that you can see one another's faces and keep it human. And obviously just trying to keep those sessions as interactive as you possibly can. Next up, it's around configuration. So one of the really happy things, if you're in a situation of home working, is that people are starting to really build their work life around what works for them. So for yourself, what's the rhythm of your day? So I wake up really early, which means that I try to make sure that I'm doing the things that need the most brain work in the morning, because in the evenings, I'm literally like a child who's like run out of steam. So it just doesn't work. But how are you drawing a line between home and work? And I've put take vacation in capital letters, because if your leaders within your organization aren't truly drawing the line and aren't truly taking vacation and leading by example, the company is watching them, and the company will role model their behaviors, whatever those are. So if you want people to be taking vacation, you've got to do it yourself. And that's something that I've struggled with. Like as in I'm off, but I'm here. I'm off, but I haven't really gone. So, making sure that you are holding yourself to account on that as well. And then, maybe you can recreate the way that people are working to support their real lives, and make sure that people are being understanding and flexible with one another. But I do think we have an opportunity, my friends, as people to really reinvent the way that we're working right now, and work in a way that supports the human experience more. Now, that doesn't mean that we're not all commercial AF and we're not making sure that our businesses are making money. We have to sit in both camps and make sure that we're focused on what our revenue is looking like. But wouldn't it be amazing if people could start not feeling like they were at work and working because it was a joyful thing? And I know that certainly that's something that I can speak to in terms of my development with my relationship with work, for sure. Supporting curiosity is super important, but you can't expect others to care about their own learning if you're not doing it yourself. So are you reading right now? Are you learning right now? When was the last time you played? When was the last time you just noodled around and danced and like whatever? How much of that are you doing in your life yourself? And how can you encourage that in others? What are some of the different learning opportunities that you can give people? What we've been doing is a bit of a blend where we've been I like to choose like a goal, like a culture or a behavior goal. Culture goals, a nicer way of putting it, each quarter. So In Q1, pre-COVID, it was giving feedback and creating a kind of loving interaction, being honest and straightforward with one another. And then throughout the quarters, we've kind of adopted the thing that we needed to do based on what we were doing in the world, what was going on in the world around us. For the Q4, the theme is one of resilience. So I have someone coming in to do a whole workshop session with our team on resilience. And there's so many different options that you can get creative with, that even if people are still at home, you can really support. Fireside chats also really can be super inspiring and super beneficial to people. Supporting calmness. So within yourself, what's your commitment to rest? I know I keep saying this and you're like, okay, Penfold, shut up already. But like, honestly, it's all about you. It has to start with you. What's keeping you balanced? What are the things that you need to thrive? What is your operating model that makes you successful? Learn what that is and become ridiculously OCD about sticking to what that operating model is. With a bit of healthy flexibility, of course. But, I make sure I know I need structure to thrive. So I go to bed at the same time and I wake up at the same time. I know what foods support my body. So I make sure that I eat the foods that support my body. And I've had to work really hard to sleep. So I am, I have an overthinking brain. So I started from the worst possible place on this stuff. But making sure that other people are resting and resetting, remind them to take their vacation if they're not doing it. Perhaps you can really make things go quiet in the, what we've done at Launchpad is in the summertime and in the wintertime, we choose a week where we cancel all the big meetings, or 2, Christmas, we do 2, so that people can feel more able to take the time out. Again, it's, people will follow your lead on this stuff. So you have to really create this such a psychological safety so that they feel like they're able to do that. And then care. So how genuinely are you caring for you? Because it will influence how you're able to care for other people. And that doesn't mean that we're this sort of, old-fashioned version of what people are, and we're sitting there with a box of tissues and not being very commercial. But so I want us to be forward-thinking business people of the future. And how wonderful is it, by the way? People now really do get a seat at the table, almost without question. So, like the world has changed and people are realizing that to grow an organization that's going to thrive, the people within it need to be thriving. So, from a BP standpoint, when lockdown happened, the message was one of family first. And as I was mentioning, we did this sort of culture goal stuff. The other thing that we're really starting to focus in on as the year progresses is how we support leaders to support others. Because, there's a huge expectation on leaders right now that they are suddenly going to just be able to cope leading people in a different way. And it's really important that you make sure that you're supporting your leadership bench on making sure that they do that. So I threw this in here just because this was our April to May, this was our festival program. We called all of the activities that we were doing online at the Festival of Culture. So we have a town hall, also known as an all hands by some people, but you'll see that we had talks on tension. We also did coaching conversation training so that we were teaching one another how to speak to one another in a way that was mutually beneficial and encourage greatness and encourage the kind of performance culture that we are looking to build. We also had a culture hack to keep evolving our culture and what it looks like. And then you'll see that we also did a session on sleep and people's relationship with sleep and all of that good stuff. So in terms of where we're at as Launchpad now, because I want to leave plenty of time for conversation and questions, we're still a work in progress. We had some success with what we did. People have way too much screen time and the struggle is real on that, but we keep assessing and we keep making sure that culture is owned by the whole organization and not just the people team. So that, it's not just you that is responsible for the success of your organization, but it is you that's responsible for recruiting everybody else into that process to make sure that you can really benefit from the rest of your community. So I'm at Ruth Penfold everywhere. You can find me on LinkedIn. I just threw that up there because I'm delighted to connect with you one-on-one. I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to come back to you so that we can address any questions. If you want to switch your cameras on too, then that would be really nice, right, Paul?
Absolutely. If you could, if anyone is comfortable, please do turn your cameras on so we see your faces. Ruth, I've got a quick question actually, just on one of the last slides to kick off. It's something we talked about doing here is a town hall. So I just wondered how you ran them, what the benefit you found was, and kind of what kind of topics you went over. That'd be great.
Yeah, so I mean, goodness, I've been way like ever since my Shazam days. So we're talking about 8 years of me being a strong advocate for all hands or town halls. It's an opportunity in a global organization in particular. Before pre-COVID, it was about really giving people the opportunity to come together and to hear. It's a great communications platform where you can talk about the real stuff that's going on at an organizational level. And also, though, help educate people about what one another are doing. And I think that's really critical at a time like this because we're not in the same office together, right? So, you know, the respect that we have for what one another is doing increases the more that we know, right? And the more that we're able to share and really, I mean, the way of being that we like to have at Launchpad is one of critical friendship. And what I mean by that is, maybe you've heard that phrase before, you understand what one another's goals are, but then you are then the supportive but challenging friend who we're challenging one another to build an organization beyond our wildest dreams, right? Which means we have to have a performance edge to the way that we're doing it. But we do that from a place of not criticism, critical friendship. So understanding what someone's trying to achieve and then going, yeah, okay, that's great. But what about if you added this bit in? Could it be even better? Right? So it's a different mindset. And I think, this is about the more opportunities that you create for your organization to come together and understand one another, the stronger that you will be as a whole.
Fantastic. Thanks, Ruth. Has anybody got any other questions at all? I'd like to ask Ruth. It's been a fantastic presentation, Ruth. I really enjoyed the meditative bit. I wondered if anyone walked past the meeting room I'm in with my eyes, wondered what I was doing, my eyes shut, sat in the room, but I very much enjoyed it. If anyone's got any questions.
Actually, on that, I used to meditate at my desk at Shazam. And because we just got to make it a thing, you just got to make it a thing. And that doesn't mean that I'm some crazy hippie. It just means I just sat peacefully, find my breath. And people are like, okay, yeah, she's just taking a moment. And then you come back into the world. But if we hide this stuff away, it becomes something that people don't feel comfortable doing and talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a couple of questions come through on the private chat from Hiran. Hiran's asked, which digital apps do you use for well-being? What would you recommend?
Okay, so honestly, for myself, I'm not a huge advocate for apps. So I think there are times in my life when I found them more supportive. But remember, this is only me and an opinion, right? But if you're talking about meditation apps, I think some of them can be incredibly useful and supportive, and certainly building perhaps a habit can be really useful with an app. But for me, when I was listening to something else that somebody else was telling me, it was a bit like watching a TV show, which means that I wasn't really connecting to myself. So for me, I've really felt the difference in connecting to myself when I was able to find my breath and teach myself to do that. Then I can just sit quietly, just me, and connect into that very deep, wise person that lives in my belly. Because we've all got that person, by the way. We think we are our brains, but our brains are just these thought factories that are there to try to protect us. The deep, calm voice within you, that's who you really are. And that deep, calm voice, if you let it, will probably laugh at what your brain is producing a lot of the time, because it can be so ridiculous when we worry. But I know I'm someone that when I'm worried about something, I keep going in a cycle, right? So therefore, but I mean, there are all kinds of brilliant apps that do all kinds of different things. But speaking from my truth right now, I don't use any for well-being personally, but I have done in the past. And when it comes to things like building habits and things like that, I've found those things really, really useful.
Perfect. Thanks, Ruth. Got another question come through in the private chat. This is from Paula. So Paula's asked, with regards to group meditation, would you suggest this is beneficial with colleagues in the workplace?
Definitely, because I mean, humans are just humans, right? It doesn't matter what their job title is above the door, whether they are, however they're in your world. Certainly, the way that I seek to educate the organizations that I work with is that all relationships in your world, for them to thrive, they have to start from a place of love. So if you're going to give feedback well to someone because you care about the outcome, that comes from love, right? You have to care enough to make sure that that person has a good experience of the feedback that you're trying to impart, and that you're confirming your relationship together. Therefore, doing that kind of journey with colleagues is amazing, because you know, like, you can be vulnerable together and go, you know, when I was learning to meditate, the group I was with were just a kind of random crew of people who came together, and I'd be like, my throat tickles the whole time. I can feel myself falling asleep. Is anybody else having that? Does anybody else have this thing? I just want to escape. I can't sit still. Is anybody else having that? And what you realize is that we're all so similar. You know, there are very few of us that don't have these overactive brains, right? So many of us can learn from one another's experiences, and that's what I experienced in a group setting. So it was super beneficial, and that's kind of what I've been trying to recreate with the team that I work with. But what I will also say, Paula, is that people all say, this is a great idea, I'd love to do more of that, and then they fall away, and that's okay, right? I say that without judgment, but just be aware. And if you're launching into these initiatives for your people, you know, you can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And, you know, my view is if I inspire even one tiny change in the way that someone's living, I don't need to know what it is, and I don't need them to tell me about it. That's enough. But I'm going to keep showing up, and I'm going to keep bringing forth my ideas of how we might be able to collectively create better experiences together as human beings, and do that within the organizations that we're building. Because, you know, we can create the kind of life that we all want to have, my friends. And we really have such an important role as people in being able to create that in the lives of others.
Thanks, Ruth. Got a couple of questions that have come through. Firstly, from Oliver. Hi, Oliver. Oliver says, sorry, great presentation. A guest speaker last week mentioned his organisation having an intranet with wellbeing support materials such as audiobooks, podcasts and blogs. I understand your hesitancy around apps and was wondering if your company has any of these things. Smiley face. Thanks, Oliver.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, I mean, I generally, so the way that I have like my immediate core people team, and then in each of the organizations that our portfolio companies, we have a people person in each of those. So we actually all share, like we have like a meetup we have a weekly meeting all together, and we all share ideas and things together. Launchpad, as a new company, we're in the process of building our kind of extranet intranet that can be accessed by our portfolio companies. But essentially for my people, we create a resource bank. And, you know, like with this, if you want someone to give a talk on this, you can go here. If you want someone to give a talk on that, you can go there, and things like that. So we make sure that we create the opportunity to share that amongst everybody. But I will say, though, I often like to use the phrase, the fish rots from the head. So it does. So your leaders need to be the champions of what you're doing. So if your leaders can start taking ownership of their own mental well-being and their own mental resilience, I'm a huge fangirl of Bernard Looney, the new CEO of BP. He's phenomenal at this, at being a real person and being a real man and leading with integrity. But the more that you can get your leaders to do that and be talking in those terms, the better that you will be. And, you know, being quite vocal about, you know, sharing things amongst their team done well. You know, if you can encourage your leaders to be doing that with your teams, then it's way realer than the people team always going, hey, here's something else I read, because people kind of go, yeah, another people team thing. Yeah, another people team thing. So the more that you can make this stuff live across your whole organization, the better.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ruth. And we had, I suppose, a question from Marianne. There's obviously a very powerful video earlier on from Mo, and Marianne's asked if we could email her the video.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Her sister recently lost her son 3 weeks ago, and she believes the video encouraged her to get
oh,
so very sorry to hear that, Marianne.
You know, and actually, I would also just think about, if you can, get her his book, Sulfur Happy. I've sent it to so many people, Marianne. It's a beautiful book that's very real and very honest. There's the link. It's very real and it's very honest, and it's written in, you know, these books are sometimes written in a way that's completely inaccessible. Mo writes in a very real way and is beautiful. And actually I share it a lot with tech businesses also, because he's coming from a kind of tech background, which means he's accessible to lots of different people. But yeah, I mean, he really did. You know, my heart goes out to your sister and to you. And yeah, you also need to make sure that you're giving yourself what you need right now, so that you can be the support that you need to be for her.
Thanks, Ruth. And Ruth, look, I mean, we're kind of near to wrapping up, and I'm coming away from this feeling really good. And I think there's been so much good content in here, and I hope everyone else, I'm sure they do, feels the same. Is there anything else you'd like to just share with the group, just around anything you've said, or anything you'd like to just summarise, really?
No, I mean, I would just remind you all that one size doesn't fit all, and what works for one person isn't going to work for the next person. But, you know, your key, the more that you can make sure that you're thriving in your world, the more your organization will thrive around you. And same for your leaders. So I can't emphasize enough how important it is, not just to help them with the nuts and bolts of leading an organization. That stuff, the nuts and bolts, should start with self-awareness and understanding who they are, so that they can then provide the right support that they need to the people within your organization that you're growing. And that would really be the key. Thanks, Ruth.
Well, look, I think that's just bringing us to a close. So thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Next week, we're going to be discussing the future of talent acquisition. But again, Ruth, thank you so much for the presentation.
You're welcome.
Spending an hour with us. I really appreciate it. I'm sure everyone else did. Thank you, everyone who attended. So see you all next week.
Have a beautiful day, everyone. Remember, sunshine on the inside. See if you can make it work. Go and dance. Go.
Thanks, Ruth. Okay. See you later, everyone.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.